So the next thing I wanted to talk about is how much kill is enough. So basically the kill curve for any milling device, if we put power here and kill here, that's 100%. So it takes a certain amount of power before you do anything, and then it looks something like this. So theoretically it's possible to kill 100%. In practical terms, most mill designs end up with some sort of way that a seed could potentially escape being touched by any kind of milling mechanism. So there is probably some sort of 1 or 2% that you'll never get. But what I'm interested in is what is the right amount. So you can see here that really there is quite big jumps in the amount of power to achieve those last few percent, and to chase 98, 99% to me seems quite wasteful. Now the reason I say that is because this is kill of what ends up in the mill. There's a huge number of opportunities for seeds to escape ending up in the mill that it doesn't actually affect the overall performance of the harvest weed seed operation as much as the percentage anyway. So I'm going to draw a very dodgy looking harvester up to our feeder house. So you have these opportunities for seeds to escape. First of all, you've got some plants that are going to be lodged and you can't get them in the front. Also, there's the seed shatter before harvest. And then there's also another one that often gets forgotten, is that the front, the header, or the header front in Australia, has a cutting mechanism which is quite aggressive, and you do get header losses. So there's losses at that cutting height. It's not simply if it's above a certain cut height you achieve that amount of capture. And then into the harvester feeder house, there is probably some losses in here. There's nooks and crannies everywhere in a harvester where you can lose seeds as well. I'm going to draw the rest of the machine now. And then our auger. And of course we get our seed terminator on the back here, and some sort of chopper spreader device there. So, and then internally you've got, on a rotor machine, sort of got the first section which is threshing, and then the next section which is separating. So there is the potential for some seeds to escape, if they're not threshed out of the rotor, to escape out through the straw and out the back. So there's loss there. And then we have our sieving system here. So if the weeds are threshed out of the ears and onto the sieve, then it comes down to the aerodynamic properties of the seed. So if you're harvesting wheat and you're trying to capture ryegrass, then what happens is, because the wheat's quite a large seed, has a high terminal velocity relative to ryegrass, that the wheat will fall through the sieve and into the grain tank. The ryegrass will blow out in the chaff stream. If you're harvesting canola and you're trying to capture ryegrass, well, canola is a smaller seed with a terminal velocity quite similar to ryegrass, so what you end up finding is a lot of the ryegrass is in the grain tank itself. Now, there are a lot of other weed species that we're chasing, so it's not saying, right, don't worry about it in canola, because there's radish and a whole range of other weeds that you might be targeting. But what it's saying is that there's a proportion that ends up in the grain tank, so let's say that's proportion G, proportion that ends up in the straw, a proportion that is missed altogether. And then there is a proportion that's milled. So proportion total is equal to proportion proportion missed plus proportion in the drain plus proportion in the straw plus the proportion that is milled. And it's only this component, obviously, that we can do anything about here. But if we said that 70% ends up in the mill, then you've got to multiply that by the percentage kill. So really you're getting an increase in percent kill here of 10% only achieves an increase of 7% overall, if that makes sense. So, but this could be, that could be as low as 40% in some circumstances, or even less, or it could be 90% in perfect conditions. But the point is, this is not the be all and end all. We can't just keep ramping up the power and achieve a better outcome because there's so many other opportunities for seeds to escape. And maybe there's an argument to say, find out when you've got ideal conditions, ramp it up, get the maximum kill, and then tone it down in other scenarios. And that's Nick Berry from Terminator.